room, and we are live and excited about what's going to be shared with us today. So welcome, welcome. All right, and we have such a rich session. So we are at the top of the hour, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again so much for joining us. I'm Colleen Gillis, Academy Development Manager at NAF, and we are again so grateful that you're taking time out of your day, wherever you are, to join us and be with us today. We're so excited and thrilled to have Naomi with us. And let me tell you, you are in for a power-packed, fun-filled hour with Naomi today. She is an influencer in tech. She's a woman in leadership strategist, and she is very excited and thrilled to share her innovative ideas with us today around changing the game when it comes to education. And we had a moment to, I'll say, talk and have a powwow before beginning today's session. And she said, this is our time to reinvent education. So I am thrilled to have her with us today. I'm excited about what we'll learn. And then I'm also thrilled that we'll have you here today. Again, just letting you know, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We have additional colleagues of mine from NAF monitoring that. And of course, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A directly with Naomi. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass it on to Naomi, and thank you again for being with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your effort, and thank you so much. Everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're going to get started first, but I'm going to also introduce you to a new collaborative portal. So not only are you in your Zoom window today, what you see in front of your screen is an invite. So that means if you could open up another tab, and what I'd like you to do is go to joinpd.com and then add in the LYHRE. That's a 5-character code. This will allow for you to have more of an immersive and interaction experience today with us, because I really want to make sure that you have a choice and voice in your learning. And so right away, when I have you as amazing educational leadership friends that are joining me, I can see instantly that I've got, as students, you'll be a student today, as a learner that you'll be joining with me. This experience can involve more engagement, especially for your high school students that you're with. It has an opportunity for just pure and rich, authentic assessment. And then at the same time, it empowers me as a presenter that if I need to go back to summarize, if I need to restate an example, if I also need to make sure that maybe I need to peer mentor or peer coach a student that could be struggling in an area. So it's such an authentic assessment piece that I use with adult learners as well. Those of you that are entering, I'm so glad that you can participate in this way, because you'll have more voice in your learning. So the others that will be coming in, please make sure to share that joinpd.com as they're coming in, and then that 5-character code. The 5-character code will always be displayed in the upper right corner that they'll be able to see after we start our class. So thank you so much for joining. I'm going to wait just another few seconds to make sure that everybody is on board and that you've entered, so that we can have an opportunity to really have a truly interactive session today. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the class, but again, anybody that joins after the fact, and it can be added to the back channel chat of joinpd.com and the 5-character code of LYHRE, they can join anytime. So as I start our class today, this provides for me the opportunity to share best practices with each of you. And our focus today is on blended learning strategies, inspiring students to truly be creators and solutionists of their futures. And it is now our time as educators to reinvent education as we know it, and to help afford the wonderful opportunity to bring our students along as peer coaches and mentors, even side by side for each of us. So I can't wait to share this learning opportunity. Please note, I have a lot of information for you, but I want to make sure that we'll have a pause and reflect moment, that you can synthesize that information and then choose 1 or 2 strategies that really fits into your wheelhouse to make an everyday ordinary activity extraordinary. So again, this is my contact information. You will get the entirety of this slide deck as Keisha Taylor will be sending this out to you. So I'm so thankful for her for doing that. But love to continue that conversation as I've been working with NAF for over 5 years. And I truly believe together we are better. There's no way that we can know it all. So let's continue that creative and cultivate that conversation to build and bring each other up to support our students of today. So our big picture thinking today is that we're going to review the current research of the how and why, especially middle school and high school Generation Z students learn best, but how this can complement our NAF fellows and our students that are participating in NAF and how we can better meet their needs. We'll also be looking at what is currently working and what we know is working when it comes to blended learning strategies and some key examples for your students. The other piece of the information, I'm going to be really engaging you and immersing you with some experiences with blended learning strategies that you can take and implement this fall when your sessions start back to back, or some of you that have already started. And it will really be a student-centered approach and a career-focused framework to get you excited about the learning. Now let's just do a little bit of an overview about our Generation Z students, because I know some of you have heard that term, but let's dig a little bit deeper of how we can really meet and reach our kids of today. So our Generation Z students, the bigger picture, they're basically born from 1996 up until 2011. That includes our upper elementary kiddos, our middle school rock star kids, and also our young adults as our high school students. They are, as we know it, the most diverse population of this generation on earth. They truly trust their peers more than they do with us as educators, or even their grandparents, and sometimes even their parents. Yet what I love about this group of innovative thinkers and solutionists is that they want to be part of the change. They don't ever want to experience this pandemic that we've been going through. And they want to be a creator of their futures to solve for these types of global challenges. It also has inspired many that they want to be part of that solution, as I mentioned. Yet what's interesting is they demand transparency. They want to lean in. They want to be part of that conversation. And they want to give their 2 cents of their choice and voice in their learning experience. So why not? Let's bring them to the table. Let's be a school, a family, community of learners, and let's solve and let's reinvent education as we know it. I'd like to share with you just a brief video clip that we have here. And this video clip will afford you the opportunity to hear and where and why Generation Z could be the most impacted by the coronavirus as we know it.
All right, question. I've got lifeboat food right here. Is this going to work?
So let
keep
me
in my
pause
car?
just for one moment. And Colleen, I just want to make sure that you can hear my video clip because it came back in another window instead of posting where it should have came through.
Hey, Naomi, I'm here. Yes, I could hear your video.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is normally it embeds without that ad. So let's just skip those ads.
Coronavirus will be a defining moment for generations to come. Generation Z in particular, that's roughly 90 million Americans who were born after 1997, might really be impacted the most. In her latest piece for Axios, Steph Kite spoke with several experts and actually lays out how this pandemic could shape that group's future outlook. Steph joins me now from Arlington, Virginia. So Steph, it's interesting because experts have really looked at and observed the sort of psychological, health, and economic issues of crises like 9/11, the Great Recession, the AIDS epidemic. But in your reporting, you say that this particular coronavirus situation is very different. How?
It is incredibly different. And one of the things that is really defining this particular moment for Generation Z is the fact that it's really impacting everyone all over the US. You have people who will see the health impacts on family members and friends who end up coming down with the coronavirus. And then there are also people who are being impacted just in their day-to-day activities, not being able to go to school like they used to be able to, not being able to take the internship they were planning to work in, not being able to get the job that they were planning to take right out of school. These are things that are just everyday normal activities that in the past with other emergencies and other catastrophes hasn't really been impacted. Even with 9/11, of course, there was a devastating impact on New York, but when it came to the day-to-day activities of people in many parts of the country, especially with younger people, there wasn't that same impact that we're seeing right now.
You know, when you've got isolation, you've got fear, you've got the uncertainty, this all impacts mental health for everyone. And already Generation Z is more likely to report poor mental health. This is according to the American Psychological Association. What else can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was something that a lot of the experts that I spoke to were really concerned about. It is well known that Generation Z is already extremely stressed out. They have high levels of anxiety. They already struggle with depression, and even suicide rates among that age group have been rising over the past several years. And so then to put on top of that, this isolation, not being able to say goodbye to friends from school before the summer and not knowing when you might see them, could make these trends even worse. And so that's something to definitely be aware of and be talking to young people in your lives about, and making sure that their mental health is in a good state, especially as we're all struggling through this period.
And we know economically this pandemic could have really lasting implications. Many students were looking to graduate in what just a few months ago was a really strong economy with plenty of jobs. That's changed in just a short period. So what about those young people who really relied on the service sector to make ends meet and to eventually help pay off their loans?
Yeah, there are both short-term and long-term economic impacts on this generation. First of all, as you pointed out, a lot of them are working in the service industry. Almost half of the teenage workers in the workforce today are working in restaurants and hotels and similar service areas. And so they're more likely to be out of work right now, not being able to start building up their finances, which could put them behind when this does let up. And then longer term, you can just look what happened with the millennials during the Great Recession. Lots of studies have pointed to the fact that millennials who graduated into the recession were impacted for years down the line, and it takes sometimes a decade to earn back what you would have been making if you had graduated at a better economic time. And so a lot of the experts I talked to said that it doesn't look great now for Generation Z, these students who are now graduating into this economy, where before they thought they had really great prospects.
That's something really hard to stomach. We will continue to watch this. Steph Kite, great reporting. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, well, teacher friends, thank you so much for watching that video and giving a brief overview of really how our global pandemic is going to be affecting this generation of students and what their workforce will be looking like and what they can do to be part of a solution moving forward. So let's just look at some of these statistics, and then we're going to have a reflection to connect the learning dots for each of you where you're at as a teacher and in your school district. But what I find fascinating about the research that's coming out of the Future of Work in America report is that 40% of the jobs that currently exist right now will be obsolete by 2030. And when I think about that, I think, oh my good heavens, we're talking 40% of our workforce. And what is happening, right? We've already seen it due to the pandemic based on how we do work. Here we are today with all of you amazing teacher friends around the US today that you're joining via virtual learning today. And that means that we are connecting, we're working differently, we're streamlining our productivity, but also that we have a lot more on our plates too with virtual learning, because it takes twice as much to create content and then to showcase and share our learning. Now, we also are looking ahead when we look at the current workforce that consists of our millennials and Generation Z population, that's 15 million strong. Those individuals that are currently in the workforce in that age group, their jobs in particularly will be automated by 2030, meaning that their type of human interface is going to be taken over by computer science or an algorithm or some type of automated system, which could include robotics and other types of technology. So that's quite alarming as well. So that really puts a perspective for us, especially when we talk about NAP, what we need to do as a team of preparing our students for this type of workforce. And the NAP curriculum and the academies that you have formed is such a strong and creative force that it's going to help us be actually a step ahead of the game than a lot of other curriculums that are out there. So the beauty of this is thinking differently of how we solve these problems and preparing our students for whether it's entry-level work, certification, or a micro-credential, yet also at the same time of how to be more adaptable and flexible in our thinking, and how knowing that moving forward that we will have many different jobs in our career and lifetime to stay relevant and to help our workforce learning of helping us to solve those world problems. Now, this is what's amazing too, when you look at the percentage of how things are shifting. So by the year 2025, we're going to be doing a shift that we're going to see more machine and algorithm-based workforce at 52%, and where now the humanistic force of you and I meeting together face-to-face is going to be starting to take a back seat at 48%. So what that means for us as educators in general is that we need to think differently of how we are working in the classroom with our students to help our students be more adaptable, flexible in their thinking, how to endure and persevere of creating and solving a problem. So lots of big thinking ideas that we need to do some things differently. And this is our time to shine. We have the opportunity to really invent that creative and collaborative workforce that we've been talking about. Now's our time to step up to the plate and take on this new task. So my question to each of you at this time is, what jobs can you relate to that have been automated in the last 5 years? So let's think about this first before I share another slide with you. What jobs can you relate to that have been automated? And even maybe during this pandemic, what has changed? What have you personally interacted with? So what I'm going to do right on the fly, I'm going to share with you how this works. I can create a new prompt just for you. And by doing that, this is going to provide for you now that you'll be able to see a prompt that you'll see that you can add your reflective thoughts and your design ideas. So the screen that you have in front of you now will provide you a text box, and that text box will afford you to add your critical insight of your personal experience. So take just a moment. And I can see I've got teacher friends coming in right away. And I love this tool because on this end, I as an educator can see exactly how many students are in there, how many students have responded, and I can see quickly what others have shared. So I'll pause for a moment. I'll be quiet so you can synthesize that question and then to reflect. As more ideas are coming in, I can see right now that I have a little over 2/3 of my student population as you as learners today that have already reflected. This tool allows for me, which I love, is that you can still keep reflecting even when I show the responses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show those responses, and instantly I can see as an educator and as well as you that you can see right away, right? It says changes I can relate to. No more snow days. I worked on hurricane day 2 weeks ago. Exactly. See, that's the perspective we're talking about. Cashiers and associates at quick service restaurants. Yep, like Panera and Chipotle, right? Things have really changed. The checkout, the automatic checkout for us at airlines, as well as in the service industry. Retail clerks, shopping. How many of us have been shopping and everything's been delivered directly to our home? Now we have all this cardboard to recycle, right? Banking, financial services, absolutely. Our grocery stores, yes, you and I are very similar. I can order online, make all my selections. I can actually have it delivered to my home, or I can go to that store, which isn't too far away. I can still wait outside, and then a wonderful individual can come and knows when I've landed there because they have my GPS location, and then they can come and add the items into my popped trunk of my car. They don't even have to touch anything. I can close my trunk trunk of my car and away I go. So we have safe social interactions. Absolutely. Yeah, someone might travel to meet clients have been eliminated during the pandemic, right? And probably not going back. So our travel is going to meet differently. So our online learning needs to look differently too. How can we make that more personalized? How do we make it interactive, but also very humanistic and filled with compassion and empathy? Yeah, your ordering kiosk, you're as a travel agent, food delivery robots, absolutely. What's interesting is I'm in Arizona. They've just developed a beautiful community in Tempe, which is about 40 miles south of where I'm at. They have a community that they've built that no cars are allowed in at all. And they have delivery of robot services to and from to get your items. You can go on the outskirts of the community and then you can pick up your Lyft or pick up your Uber, whatever you need. But everything is a green space that you'll take your bike around or you can walk. Yet at the same time, food delivery robots are coming in. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, everything's being automated, right? All of your responses, absolutely spot on. Yeah, the smart temperatures in your home, everything's been digitized. You can check your home away from home, right? With all of the video surveillance and conferencing too. Absolutely. The servers in fast food restaurants, no longer are we meted by a greet and meet. We're meted by a kiosk that we personalize what we want, how we interact, and how we get our food quickly if you're there. And especially, yes, our telehealth. Yes, that's imperative. My last 3 months ago, I had my health checkup, right? Everything's been done online. So moving forward, we are going to actually be losing some humanistic sides, as you can see. And now that others can see how apparent it is, how we streamline work, we need to put our thinking hats on and our designer hats on of what we can do differently with how we do work in the classroom too. Well, thanks for responding, everyone. I'm going to hide those responses at this time, which means it's going to bring me back to my main slide deck. And I'm going to give you some more really creative information to have you think a little bit differently of how you can be actually a problem solver as we move forward with this today. Now, your reflections were very, very reflective of this summarization statement that I have here. We mentioned customer service, we talked about financial literacy, we talked about the food service and hospitality and tourism, and also online shopping. Everything has been changed. So everything that you reflected on is reflective of here and more, some of your ideas that you have. So if that's been modified, what does education and what does the teaching and learning experience need to change to as well to help our students to get up to their game, basically, of what their new careers could look like? So big question thinking here, how do we create and model effective teaching and blended learning strategies with students when constant change and uncertainty is all around us? That's what we're facing with right now, and that's what we're going to be facing with futuristically. So that's why it's so important that we need to allow our Generation Z students to lean in, to be part of this, to be part of the solution, and be a co-leader, co-teacher, or a mentor as a coach to other students and to us as teachers to help solve for this world's biggest problem of how do we reinvent education as we know it. Well, the bigger piece here is future-proofing. Future-proofing is going to be essential moving from here on out. It's how we model these essential skills for student future success. It's also how we as educators develop and model and showcase that adaptive, emotional, intelligent mindset. It also means that when I'm interacting and when I'm demonstrating and when I'm showcasing, how I as a teacher really actively listen to understand each and every one of our students that has a different ability and a different background knowledge that they're bringing in to their learning environment, and also their upbringing. Every one of us has a different learning experience, but to learn from them, but to also to think critically, to problem solve, and how we can celebrate diversity and celebrate all the unique attributes and traits that children bring to the table, because each one of them has this beautiful gift of intellect that we can learn from where they're at and their experiences that they afford us. Yet what we must do, which is imperative, is that we must model an empathy-based community of learners in our classrooms online and our classrooms as a hybrid model, and also when we come back to face-to-face. And what does that new collaboration look like when we're online? And what does it look like that we know it's successful when we're face-to-face? But now, how do we really help build an empathy-based humanistic force collaborating online? And the essential element that comes and binds us all together is that we need to be a constant and a continuous learner, which means learning on a continuum as a lifelong learner. We as educators know that, we practice that, yet we need to model that for our students because their jobs are going to be constantly changing. So instead of having 10 or 11 different careers in a lifetime, this generation of students is going to have more than 15. Meaning that even though if they go to a college, they earn a bachelor's degree, they go on to get their master's or possibly even their doctorate, their job is going to be changing, that they're going to be actually having to take more certifications and micro-credentials to stay up to speed and to fulfill their passion bucket. So they stay motivated, they stay energized, but they can build a stronger community of learners in their workforce environment. Now I have a great little task here for you. This is called the 2030 Job Task and Market Potentials. This link is embedded into this slide deck today, and this is some of my learning that has come out from working with ISTE, which is known for the International Society for Technology and Education, looking at those technology literacy essential skills, but then also working with a Canadian ed tech group this last fall. And the question basically was posed to me, Naomi, what are the job tasks and what's the future workforce and potential market going to look like for 2030? And what is it look like for myself as a teacher in a classroom of what I need to afford those different types of learning experiences for my students? So I did quite a bit of research putting on my designer and researcher hat. And what we discovered is that as teachers moving forward, you will be wearing a new hat. And that is the essential component of you as a teacher, as a critical designer of new learning experiences, yet affording us the opportunity to showcase and model and connect our students with future leaders or our alumni that have just graduated with some of these new job hats that they're wearing, such as what does it look like to be a 3D design engineer? What does it look like to be a career and life coach? What does it look like to be your own CEO of your own company? Yet what does it look like to be your own CEO as a chief experience officer in an organization, meaning that you are ensuring that every end user in that organization is having a quality and fulfilling experience of working with others, producing creative products, yet also the people that buy your product, that their experience is wow-worthy. So there are going to be many different types of jobs moving forward. And even look at the one that says Avatar Relationship Manager. Everything's moving into our online job markets. And what does that look like for us to be highly successful, highly communicative, but highly compassionate with understanding others of where they're coming from and to respect and celebrate diversity. And that's where we need to actually have more integration of a humanistic approach to understand, to listen, and to apply new information. Now, some other things I'd like to understand from each of you. Here's another pause and reflect moment. How do Generation Z students learn in your classroom, and how do they represent their best learning potential? So I want to make sure that we do a pause and reflect moment. We're going to add a new prompt right away because I want to know from you. So what you'll see now on your screen, it says, how do Generation Z students learn best, basically in your classroom? Have you asked them? And how do they represent their best learning potential? What excites them? How do you know that they're really leaning in and giving their 2 cents? And how do you know that they're giving 100% effort in your class? So if you could share your reflective ideas or thought, I will pause, so I'll be quiet, so that you can actually process and synthesize that information that I'm asking you at this time. and looking where we're at. And normally in our face-to-face conversations, I would give you at least 3 minutes for this particular prompt so that it allows everybody to be successful with processing that information. Because I'm asking you questions already that this is some prior knowledge experience, right? So we need to retrieve that information from our back quadrant of our brain, of our long-term working memory. And then we need to connect it with our beautiful frontal lobe to create inspiring ideas or insight and thinking about possibilities. So I want to make sure that you have some response time, and we have about half of you that have responded. You're still processing. By modeling what I'm doing, you'll see here too that you are a learner today. You're having a very much a collective voice and sharing your brilliant ideas. And we need more time to pause and reflect, because that's the biggest differentiator right now. If we have more time to allow more time for our kids to think more deeply, process an idea, and then share out their insight, they're going to be more successful with actually formalizing an idea, comprehending more of a complex question that we've asked, but they feel their voice has been heard and valued. So we need to slow down with what we're doing, but offer more open-ended questions like this. Let me share our responses where we're at. So a lot of you are saying, yes, they learn through research, collaboration with their peers, and presentations. Absolutely. See, research is a critical factor, especially at that upper middle school, high school area, because they need to differentiate and try and find out all of that true and factual information and know how to actually to read multiple sources of information to find out what those true facts are. Absolutely. Learning in groups and sharing ideas. Yes, they do. Yes, very much. Yes, gamified learning. Our kids want to have even complex learning in which there's a strategy, there's a risk, and there's an opportunity. Yeah, a lot of our kids love the online computer science and the online resources. Absolutely. Yes, and some of our kids really want the specialty area of our arts and to have more games and skits and interactive activities that they feel invested in our really understanding what's afforded them with the types of learning scenarios. We'll also see that collaboration with their classmates, problem solving. Yes, project-based learning, that's the essential hook. Having them solve for our world's greatest challenges and those global challenges that we will be facing futuristically. Lots of opportunities to reflect. Yes, they even say in a 1-hour classroom right now, there should be 3 main components of whether it's a quick win at the beginning of that bell ringer activity or an intro ticket. There should be a streamlined process for students to connect the dots as a quick write, or even that essential of what we're doing here to have their collective voice, and ensuring that we offer a closing opportunity to add calmness to our day, but also that the students can ask more questions. Absolutely. Yes, hands-on, lots of hands-on with our kids right now, lots of sensory modalities of learning, lots of imagery as well that you've shared. So thank you for sharing your responses. Those are critical. Thank you for sharing your critical insight. A few other areas that I'd like to share with you, some of you have already mentioned, we do understand how Generation Z learns best, and it is small, snackable, bite-sized chunks of information. So that means that we need to take even this online experience, usually what you teach in face-to-face, cut it in half. And then from there, you may need to take that half and cut it in half again, that you're using just a quadrant of it to go deeper into the learning and to really hook those students that they feel invested. We also need to have more choice and sensory learning modalities, which you've already mentioned. A lot of times we hook the kids with a video clip on the front end to connect the learning dots when it comes to their prior knowledge, but also to extend the learning of exposing them to new information. But that's when kids want to be in charge of their learning. They want to be able to watch, they want to be able to pause that video clip, they want to be able to make and do and tinker with something over here to put that into context, but then they also want to demonstrate and apply their understanding. Allowing that time to tinker and to process that information will afford you, the educator, for more moments that kids will question and lead and discuss, and they want to be part of that learning community. Some other areas that you'll also see, and that you've hit on this topic already, kids prefer actually smaller collaborative groups. Large group opportunities can be okay, but they prefer smaller collaborative groups because they want to be social. They want to share their experiences. They want to feel safe in those groups. But also, we do need to afford them more time for individual time to process and reflect. And they should be processing and reflecting with their group of kids in social aspects in those collaborative groups, but also that they can own their learning, that we have individual time. And what we've seen that's really imperative right now more than anything to get more kids invested in their education and they feel that they are part of the solution is they would prefer more choice of personalized learning pathways. That even though we have a curriculum to follow, having those kids connect and relate to what's in their world, what's most important, and also being part of an influencer, where are other career influencers that could come in and give you a webinar, meaning that you could actually have an expert that could come in that is an alumni, or it could be just a student that has been working in that field for their first 5 years. They want to connect with their generation of learners as well. Passion-based interest projects are imperative. They want to see that I'm really passionate about something here. How is it going to play out in my real world? So more of those focused areas. Some other things that you've already mentioned, our kids love the hands-on and sensory modalities. More design and maker challenges are really important right now. And look at them already. From where we've been in the pandemic, we have had our students step up to the plate to create PPE gear for our healthcare industries, of design concepts, helping local communities, hospitals and clinics with vested efforts of sewing masks, 3D print materials that have supported that PPE gear as well. And that's where this is where we need to open the gateway and the door of opportunity, that we need to allow our students to think like an entrepreneur and design like an engineer. And that's where the new calling for you as a teacher, and your new teacher hat that you'll be actually wearing now, is that you will be a teacher designer to co-create experiences alongside with your students. And that you'll also be wearing the hat as a life coach to these kids, because they're going to be coming with you with many different types of social emotional learning needs and helping to find a way that we can balance that out. Our kids, we know already, they love to be an activist and an advocate in what they're passionate about. So why not bring in those social world causes right into our classroom and to complement the NAV curriculum? It's a win-win for everybody. And that way they can truly be an active participant and a leader in these global solutions that we're looking for them to be. So here's the next step that I'd like to share with you, and this is called cognitive presence. And this is so imperative of moving forward, of where we're at currently in the pandemic, how we're moving futuristically, whether we come face-to-face, starting our school year, whether it's a hybrid model or whether it's truly online, but the importance of student-centered learning. So the bigger piece of information, I've got some quick wins for you right now, and these are cognitive presence of the importance of student learning. We know that when we're in the classroom or we're having hands-on learning experiences, that's one thing. But now we need to safely social distance. What does that look like now? I've got some key examples that have actually been proven in the spring of the year that we know that we can replicate these types of learning experiences online. So I'm going to quickly provide for you virtual stations as rotation stations online, choice boards of activities, playlist learning, and the 5 E's of learning experiences. The bigger picture I want to give a shout out here to give credit where credit is due is Caitlin Tucker is from Northern California, and I've had the opportunity to work with her when I lived in California. She is a brilliant mind, and I love how she works with middle school, high school teachers, and as a teacher herself. She has taken her best practices this past spring of when she works with kids in the classroom, and now she's flipped this model to make it online. And I like the way that she sets it up into small snackable chunks. And it says group 1, group 2, and group 3 of how she still meets and personalizes learning with kids as a teacher-led station, yet it helps kids focus on skill building, remediation, also addressing misconceptions, and also that personalized feedback. Then the next chunk we look at is the online station. Personalized learning for students, to having that choice, to research, to explore, and to collaborate alongside of with a teammate as a dynamic duo or a transformative trio, and then truly embedded with rich resources of multimedia lessons to differentiate instruction. And the last piece is that offline station. This is where kids can still have small group discussions supported in your learning management system, yet this is where kids are tinkering, making, building, producing. They're ideating, they're creating a prototype, they're testing and seeing what they can truly create. And it also is supported with rich research of active learning strategies, great reflections where kids are connecting those learning dots to be successful. I've included here the link that Caitlin has afforded me to share with each of you. It's her way of setting it up as a very simplified, streamlined of how you can create virtual rotation stations in your classroom and what it can look like online so that you stay very organized, but it also helps organize our students to be successful. A few other things some of you may be doing. I've introduced this to a lot of my school districts that I work with nationwide, but these are called learning menus. This is another way to offer virtual rotation stations, but providing choice for your students. So I want to give a great shout out to Casey Bell from Texas for Shake Up Learning. I've had the opportunity to work directly with her. We were both at a big event in South Dakota a few years ago. Love learning with her, and great ways of what it can look like of how to be effectively communicative, collaborative, critical thinking, and creativity of what that online experience can look like, but to empower choice and voice for students. And then I included my example because, as you probably hear from my accent, I'm originally from the Midwest. And in the Midwest, and I still have such a wonderful cultural and heritage from my upbringing, good wholesome food, I think everywhere is a win-win for everybody. And one thing that we're known for in the Midwest is different types of menus. And these menus include like a good old-fashioned casserole, or it's called a Minnesota hot dish. And what that means is a scaffolding technique of how you layer food, a comfort food, to make a delicious and delectable meal for your entire family. And what I love about this, I've represented this in this learning menu to give children choices. So the main topic is where a topic that every child must learn and they must master. Yet we kick it off like with a bell ringer activity, which is the appetizer. The appetizer is that essential hook to get kids really interested and invested in that learning. A main hot dish menu, as you can see by the picture, believe it or not, it's called a good old-fashioned tater tot casserole. We've got the potatoes on the top. We've got some great filling of our variety of vegetables. We've got some lean ground beef or a protein of some sort, and then it's solidified together with some good cream homemade soup together. But by doing that, students get the whole big picture of the main concept, and then we break it down into a side dish of learning, meaning I provide an essential list of side dishes that could be 3 or 4, but the students choose 2 that they want to dig deeper into based on their passion and interest. And then lastly, the dessert option. Everybody loves dessert of some sort, right? And that just means the dessert option is that choice where students put everything together and create a digital beautiful project that they get to showcase and share their new learning with their student groups. So again, here's the template. If you'd like it, go ahead and take it and put your own mix on it, because everybody has their wonderful cultural foods from their background histories to celebrate diversity, yet at the same time where we live in the United States. A few other templates I wanted to give to you. If you're looking for offline choice boards, we have that here too. So this is another shout out to Caitlin. She's provided what it can look like, because you can create choice boards of learning online, but when you set them up in a Microsoft PowerPoint or a Google slide deck, what I love about this is you can allow for those choice boards to be offline. So if students are at home and there is they do not have, let's say, internet at home, but they have the device that they're saved as offline, they can still be successful with creating and making. And then when they do tap into Wi-Fi, it will synchronize their learning, meaning that can now be shared into their learning management system. My favorite one that has just come out as of last week. Oh my goodness, teacher friends, this is a better than chocolate learning moment. This is called playlist learning. This is a huge shout out to Slides Mania. And Paula is the creator of Slides Mania, supported with rich templates that are really meeting the needs of our Generation Z students. Playlist learning is a spin-off of going to basically to a YouTube channel. Our kids love the videos, right? Well, this is a template that looks like YouTube, but you can create it in a Microsoft PowerPoint or a Google slide deck. And you as a teacher can flip your own teaching, add your teaching moment videos, plus the to-dos of what they need to do so that you can model, and then the student does the to-do. And then the following slides is where students are given a design challenge that they can show what they know, creating their 1-minute wonder or 2-minute transformation video clip, and then they reflect on their learning, sharing it back with the teacher. This can be done individually, or this could be set up as a channel that I put kids in specific groups. But talk about making your life so much easier. This is a template, and she's got hundreds of templates out there, from anything from slide decks to digital journals to notebooks to gamification. You know it, it's there. But this is, if anything, this was going to streamline your life with blended and online learning. The playlist template I've included in the master slide deck. A few other things. Some of you may have a great learning management system, but if you don't, Paula just set this one out. This was produced a couple days ago, so I added that into my major presentation. And this is helping keep everything in one place, because we know sometimes our upper elementary and our high school kids, organization is maybe not their strongest point. But this is a way that teachers can design and create and keep everything in one central hub. You could still build this into your LMS, but everything is clickable so that kids have their tasks and their need to knows, and then also their design challenges all in one place. So if you haven't seen this, this is another great area to tap into. A few other things just to support where you're at. This is called the 5 E's of learning. I personally use this when I design courses, graduate courses for my pre-service teachers and students that are earning extra graduate credits to maintain their teacher licensure. I also use this in classrooms with middle school and high school students, especially when we're focusing on a STEM focus. So I've included the link that is the NGSS 5E model of instruction, and I love it because it breaks it out into small, snackable chunks of learning to engage, to explore, to explain, to elaborate, and then to evaluate that students are part of that entire process. So I've included that there as a guide, and I know you have your curriculum that you normally follow, but these are choice experiences that now you have a flexible structure of a framework to keep kids on task, but then also giving them choice. To take it one step further, on this slide, now I have some different engagement, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluation tools of choice. What can this look like to hook them right away? So I also have built in different types of strategies. I also have a template that if you're looking for design ideas to set up this as a successful model as personalized learning takeaways, this can help kids with organization and structure, what it looks like for them, that you can assign that engagement task, that explore learning moment, how to help kids explain through different ways to represent their reflections in critical thinking. So I have those here as well. So I'm going to pause just for a moment, but what are 1 or 2 teaching strategies that you will now try to implement to focus on your students' needs and importance of cognitive presence to provide for them student-centered learning? So I'm going to add that new prompt in here for you as a learning takeaway, so that will refresh your screen right now. But even if you can just share 1 more item, and then I've got a few more nuggets to share, and then we'll pause to make sure that we have an active Q&A session before we close out our hour, because it's like, my goodness, it's gone so fast. But I want to make sure that you have some insight right here. So what are 1 or 2 teaching strategies that you're now going to try what I just modeled of some smaller, snackable, bite-sized chunks to really engage and interest your students with personalized learning to support what you're doing already so very well within NAF in general? You can share that through our online learning portal if you want. I can see I've got teacher responses already quickly coming in again, so thanks for participating. So as they're coming in, I will just pause and be quiet so that you can reflect. Okay, now that I have close to half of you in, I'm going to show those responses. So right away, some of you are saying, I'd love to implement that playlist learning model. Oh, I'm telling you, it's better than chocolate. Anytime that you can have children in a playlist, but they have choice in their learning, but it really strategically scaffolds your main concept, oh, that is so good because the kids are really processing that information at their pace and finding success. Absolutely. Yeah, more experimentation, that's a win-win too. Yes, and helping kids get organized for remote learning. They get stuck, right? I'm going to give you a tip on that too in just a minute of how to make it more simplified. The menu template. Anything that you can use for a menu, and sometimes it's just that wholesome cooking of food, right? It brings us together because all of us, all of our diverse backgrounds have these amazing dishes. And why not celebrate the diversity in our classrooms, right? Everybody has something to bring to the table of what we eat and how we celebrate family. We should be celebrating our community of learners as our school family. Yeah, the virtual rotation stations, I would say too, that's a quick win. And how do we set up those breakout rooms and what that looks like? So yes, Caitlin's done a very nice job. Good, the playlist learning is great. And the self-centered learning, that's important. Teacher-led, online and offline, those small snackable chunks. That's right. Well, thank you for sharing. So let me pull this back right now. And I have a few more things before we come back to a Q&A because I want to make sure that your voice is heard today. I have 2 more sections here, teacher friends, and we're not going to get through everything. So I want to be very transparent, but I've got some things that I think that will really hook you to even want to learn more. So I know that you'll dig deeper into the slide deck that I have for you. I have a list here that's the top 10 blended learning priorities for purpose that have really helped me as an online instructor with students. But then I also have following this top 10 teaching and learning blended learning strategies that are quick wins that you can utilize tomorrow in your classroom. So just a few, just to give an area to share with you. No matter what and how it looks like when we go back, we have to ground our teaching and learning focus first and foremost in social emotional learning best practices. And that really means that I need to connect with my students. We need to build stronger relationships, and we need more time for students to allow to process where they're at, because each one of our students is coming back with a different type of trauma. Trauma meaning that they could have had a mom, a dad, a family member pass from COVID. Trauma also meaning that they haven't seen you as an educator in 5 months and their safest hub was at school. And trauma also means that they've been separated from their peers this amount of time. So different types of trauma. We also need to be a better understanding that the access and equity issues of the internet for our students. More than ever, we have seen what has happened with our kids, that they have not had the adequate digital access to tools and access to Wi-Fi. And that has become very apparent in how we move forward and how we address that. A few other things, I'm not gonna go over everything here. I'm just gonna say, we need to follow the KISS principle. We need to keep it simple and sweet, but also short. So less is more here. And I've got some tips of how to do that and how to approach that. We also need to look at, and for us to model a blended learning growth mindset. Even though we may be struggling as an educator, it's trying something small, putting a new twist on it, and becoming successful with a very quick win. We also need to be prepared that, you know what, there's going to be times it's going to fail. And when everybody gets online again, our internet's going to need a huge Band-Aid because it may break at a given time or something's going to happen. So thinking differently, thinking quickly on your feet, of always having a backup plan, but just being flexible in your thinking and saying, you know what, I had a challenge today, I had a setback, but I can learn from that and I can modify my lesson accordingly. Please be an over communicator more than anything. I can't tell you enough. Even though we think we've communicated, it may be that you're always sending emails. I'd say pick up the good old fashioned telephone, make a phone call home if you need to. Kids need to hear the tone of your voice. They need to know everything's going to be okay. Even with parents as well, be over communicative in every means that we do. Simplify it, but keep it simple. Number 6, make sure to work effectively to communicate, yet make sure that it's simplified. Keep it easy, keep it straightforward, whether it's just outlining task 1, task 2, task 3, instead of giving a syllabus that's pages and pages long, because the kids are not going to look over the first page. They won't. And parents, they're so busy working and trying to find balance too, that too much text is too much. Small, snackable, visual chunks for the win. Number 7, healthy boundaries. We have to help and fight for ourselves too and support ourselves. That means self-care for ourselves as educators. Also set healthy boundaries, meaning between family and space at home and also your work environment. Your new space is in your home. Make sure it's not impeding upon your time and quality time with family. And also making sure your communication and teaching schedule is a balanced schedule that you're meeting students' needs, but it's healthy for you too. You have to be very careful for that and have it structured and how they can reach and meet you, yet set boundaries. Live video learning versus flip video segments, sometimes throughout your week saying, yep, on Mondays and Wednesdays, we're gonna meet live, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're gonna have a flip teaching segment. Mixing it up can be a lot of fun. Our last ones that I have here, consistency is key. I can't tell you enough about that. Every time that you share something with students, instead of going out to path 1, path 2, path 3, use your learning management system or CMS to the extreme. Having one entry portal, how do they access it? So parents understand, so students understand, and everybody's on the same page. Consistent routines will set you up for success now. And number 9, your distractions in your workplace environment, if it's at home, make sure you have a dedicated space. Make sure that even when your family members are there, I keep a little post-it and a sign outside my door. When I do live webinars, it says Naomi's live. I need quiet learning moments. And then when I'm during my design time that I can be interrupted, I put my designer hat on outside of my door so my husband and son know, oh, she's designing, but it's an okay time to come in and to interrupt, to ask a question, or they check on me to take a brain break. Are you drinking enough water? Have you gotten up every hour? Maybe you need something, a food to replenish that beautiful brain so that you can keep going with that design content. And number 10, planning your priorities with purpose. We've got to find the appropriate work-life balance. And again, I've been saying that all along. Prioritize a healthy communication. That means take care of yourself, drink lots of water. I always have my glass of water next to everything I do. We should be drinking 100 ounces of water per day for adult learners, meaning because our brain is 80% made up of water. So we need to make sure that we continue that great resource of our wonderful blood-filled oxygen to our brain to help us with that. But also setting the boundaries between family, work, and self, and giving back so you're not hard on yourself so hard. We need to make sure that we find fun things to do, take a break from the tech so we're not so overwhelmed, and also finding the appropriate balance that we are staying healthy, a healthy food plan, we're drinking water, and also communicating clearly with our loved ones. Now I'm gonna turn it back over to our wonderful NAF staff, but guess what? I have a question here, but due to our time today, we're just going to move on. But knowing I've got 10 more golden nuggets of learning that are better than chocolate, and they are on blended teaching strategies and quick wins. So I can't wait that you can tap into this, because on every 10 tip strategy that I have, there's 3 more little, you could say, side dishes, little more treats in there to share that with you. So I'm going to pause at this time. I'm going to turn it back over to our teacher friends, and I'm going to stop my sharing at this time so that I can come back to large group, because I know that we're running out of our hour, and if you can stay with us a few more moments that we can learn together.
Thanks, Naomi. We always appreciate your time with us. And, you know, we do have a few minutes left, but we do want to hear from our educators if there are any brief questions that they may be able to ask you. I know that we had a lot of content. You will get these slides at the end of the presentation. So check your inbox, you'll see an email from me. But any questions? I know we have some of our NAF staff on. Anybody have any questions from NAF?
Hello, it's not really a question, it's more of a shout out and an appreciation. When you were sharing some of the tools, and I know that you were definitely targeting them towards the teachers. I know for me, I definitely borrowed some nuggets like your learning menu, all about food, love that, as well as the playlist as well. So I'm hoping to be able to also, I'm also hoping to be able to stuttering is amazing. I'm hoping to be able to incorporate it into my practices as well. So thank you so very much.
Yep, absolutely. And the more that we get comfortable with this, I always say too, if it's something that's new, just take one idea from today. I gave you just a whole collection, plus there's 10 more golden nuggets out there for you. But take one thing, get comfortable. And when I learn anything new, I actually practice it with my family. And I want to make sure, how can I use this first in my household? What can I do? How do I connect with my children that live back in La Crosse, Wisconsin? How can I connect with them? And I get comfortable using it, modeling it, then I know how to afford to use it in my classroom. So I build my learning confidence that way too. I use my family members as test recipients. That's what I do.
That's a good one. That's good. I mean, and I hear, you know, Sandra, you're correct. You know, we do learn something new every day. Absolutely true. And trying it out is also awesome. Hey, Fred from NAP. Hello. I didn't know if you had a question, Fred. I know you're on mute.
I have to say, it's been a long time since I've been in the...
I can't hear you, Fred. No, I can't hear you.
I just heard him say, it's been a long time since I've been in the classroom, and I wanted to hear him say a little bit more. So
yeah. Oh.
Trying to make me go back, and I'm willing to go.
I don't know if it's his...
Yep. So what he said, he said, from what I gleaned from what he says, it's been a long time since I've been in the classroom. And from what he's gleaned today, he's like, I'm looking to go forward to go back in the classroom now. Now he's got some design ideas or activities, and now he's excited. See, we're reinventing education, and we know it. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, Fred supports a lot of academies in Western New York, so I know he'll be on and sharing these strategies with our academy leaders. Hi, Kim from NAF. How are you?
I'm great. I would just like to say thank you so much, Naomi, because every time I hear you present, it inspires me more to better support the NAF network. And thank you for those tools, and less is more. And I think as we continue to learn tools and best practices as we move forward in the COVID space, I think that we all need to look at the way we collaborate and just sharing and communicating with one another. So I just want to say thank you for sharing that tool with me, and I will definitely implement it in my work with NAF. Thank you so much.
Excellent. And I always say my motto is together we are better. There's no way we can know it all, but if we can really inspire ourselves to really be truly collaborators and better communicators, we are just going to just make an ordinary activity just simply extraordinary. And we're not going to go back to the way we were doing things. It's going to be incredible moving forward, and just empowering our students to be co-teachers and peer coaches with us. That's what we need to do. We need to lift those kids up. They're ready. It's their turn to shine.
That's awesome. Yeah. Naomi, thank you for your time. Once again, we are always inspired by your work. Please follow Naomi on social media. She's always got strategies to share with the network. She's on Twitter. I'll include that information in my email as well, so that you can have all the good content that Naomi's working on and designing as we move forward to the beginning of the school year. We will have Naomi back in September. Feel free to join us again. She'll be sharing some of this content and the other slides that we didn't get to as well. So we'll dive a little bit more deeply into that content. We, as always, thank you for joining us in the middle of your very busy days. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all, and we all wish you a great afternoon from us at NAF. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.